Hello, you are listening to The Wellness Project with Des. I'm your host, Desiree, a mental health therapist and holistic wellness coach. On my podcast, I interview experts in the field of mental health and wellness, as well as those who share their firsthand accounts of their mental health journeys. These interviews will give you many tips, tools, and strategies to improve your mental health, as well as give you hope, support, encouragement, and inspiration on your own personal mental health and wellness journey. Thanks so much for being here. I would greatly appreciate it if you took a moment to leave me a review on iTunes and leave the podcast 5 stars on Spotify. It really helps the podcast to grow, which in turn helps me to keep bringing on amazing guests and spreading mental health and wellness education and support. And make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss an episode. Are you ready to embark on a transformative journey towards holistic well-being, unlocking the full potential of your mind, body, and spirit? If so, I'm thrilled to invite you to my program, the Holistic Wellness Transformation Coaching Program. My one-to-one coaching program is a comprehensive and individualized approach to help you improve your overall well-being. As a holistic wellness coach, I'm here to guide you on a transformative journey to attain balance and harmony in all areas of your life. With personalized coaching sessions, I'll offer guidance and support throughout your wellness journey. Starting with a thorough holistic assessment. We'll dive into your past, habits, thoughts, feelings, behaviors, and patterns that may be holding you back and no longer serving you. This assessment forms the foundation for your customized wellness plan. Together, we'll explore the 8 foundational elements of wellness to ensure you feel balanced and aligned with your goals and your values. This program goes beyond the surface, providing you with mental and emotional support. I will help you to manage stress, anxiety, and other challenges such as perfectionism and people-pleasing, offering techniques and strategies to enhance your resilience and your skills. The benefits of this program cannot be overstated. I'll be there every step of the way to support you in achieving balance and harmony in your life, manage stress, and improve your emotional well-being. Nurture healthy connections, create lasting, healthy habits, achieve your goals, and gain confidence in your ability to transform your life. Join me on this journey to holistic wellness. You could go to my website to check out my various packages, and you could go to my Calendly link found in the show notes to schedule a free 30-minute consultation call where we will go over the 8 core areas of wellness, as well as your goals and your dream life. Reach out and let's get started on your wellness journey so you can finally live the life you want. Hey there, thanks for joining me today. I'm your host Des, and this is episode number 163. So we've been on a few breaks as of recently. Last week was 4th of July on Thursday. That's the day I normally post the podcast. So I wasn't going to post then, but also we were moving across country. We were moving from Colorado to Washington State. Now, it is July 1st today, the day that I am recording this intro, so I am actually moving in a few days, so I don't know how the move goes yet. I'm hoping that it goes well and that it goes smoothly, but I wanted to record this intro because we are actually about to break down my whole podcast setup on Mark's desk because we have movers coming tomorrow, July 2nd, to load the truck. I wanted all of this to be done before that. So I am coming to you from the past prior to my move. We also had a few breaks because I was traveling around Guatemala. Now I am back from that, and that was absolutely amazing. It was challenging because just travel sometimes is challenging, but it was really great. It was a beautiful, beautiful country. We actually saw a volcano erupting, which was just incredible. I mean, I was awestruck. We stayed at a beautiful hotel on a lake. I mean, it was just a really, really great trip. It was a little long. It was 2.5 weeks. And I did honestly start getting a little anxious and homesick just because we just have so much to do for the move. So I was getting just a little anxious about all we had to do, but thankfully we had a list, we had internet and Wi-Fi and everything, so we were able to get a lot of stuff done while we were there in Guatemala. And actually, funnily enough, we were in Antigua, which is just such a beautiful area. I think that was my favorite area that we visited. And we spent 3 hours in Office Depot because we had to apply for apartments in Washington. We had to do it while we were there because we needed to secure a place. So we were in Office Depot printing applications, filling them out, scanning them. I mean, we were there for hours. Thankfully, we did get notified, like I think 2 days later, that we did get approved for an apartment, our number one choice, actually. So we were really excited, but we did have to spend some time doing that. But thank goodness for the internet, right? I mean, I was able to do that right from Guatemala. So, yeah, it's been a whirlwind. It's been very busy. It's been very anxiety inducing. It's been very stressful. But I am looking forward to downsizing. That's one thing I'm really looking forward to. We do own our house, and it's just always so much work. There's always so much to do. It's so expensive. We have a lot of land. I mean, not a huge plot of land, but we have a lot of area that's just like constantly covered in weeds. And we are keeping our house, we're renting it out, but we're going to have a property manager. So I'm just kind of looking forward to moving into a 2-bedroom apartment with a very small patio. Mark wants to get a little garden set up, a little like pots and a little flower bed or something like that. But I am really looking forward to downsizing. You guys know that I'm super into decluttering, and I actually do have a decluttering coaching program if you're interested in that. But it's something I'm really passionate about. So during this moving journey, I have just been on this super declutter journey. I've been getting rid of stuff, selling things, which was actually nice. We actually made a good chunk of change. So we sold a lot of stuff from our garage because we are going to have a little storage area, not huge. So we did sell a bunch of stuff, and we put all of that money in our joint account. And all of that money went towards our first month of rent, our last month of rent, our deposits, security screenings, things like that. So that was really nice to have that money from the things we don't really use anymore or aren't going to need. So we've been donating so much. Actually, just this morning, we went and I donated a ton of books to my little local library. You know, those little libraries that you see in front of people's houses and things like that. We have a few in our neighborhood. So I went and donated a bunch of books. So that was kind of fun. So it's been nice to donate, get rid of things, and just downsize. But packing and our living room and spare bedroom are absolutely full of garbage bags and boxes. We did not get rid of nearly as much as we wanted to or hoped to. So Mark and I have a plan of actually when we get to Washington, when we get to our apartment, we are going to, as we unload stuff, as we open bags, as we open boxes, we're going to do another run through of decluttering. We're going to actually try on all of the clothes that we unpack. And if it doesn't fit, if we haven't worn it in a long time, we're going to donate it. We're going to go through books again. We're going to go through all of our kitchen stuff again, things that we don't use again, we're going to get rid of. And probably one of the most important things for us is that we are going to really focus on if something has a home or not. So when you're decluttering, it's really important for each item to have a specified place that it belongs, that it could be housed. And a lot of our stuff does not. So we are going to unpack, and if something doesn't have a home, it has to go, because that's where a lot of clutter buildup happens, where things don't have a designated area, a designated home. So we're going to do another run through. I'm looking forward to that because, again, I'm just really looking forward to downsizing and simplifying. I feel like I really liked living in our house, but it was too much. It was too much all the time, too much to take care of, way too big. So I'm looking forward to a smaller space, and I really want it to be decluttered and neat and clean and tidy and organized. So that is my goal. So anyway, if you want to follow my journey of moving, you could follow me on Instagram at The World According to Des. That's my travel Instagram if you want to check that out. And also on my website, accordingtodes.com. I haven't done this in a long time, but it's been my goal to get back into it again because we're moving out of the house. I want to focus on other things, but it's been my goal to write more travel blogs. I used to all the time, and I just kind of fell off and started focusing on other things. But those travel blogs are on my website if you want to go check that out. So I have a few of my travels on there and a few road trips. So, but I do want to get back into that. So I am going to start that again. So I'm hoping to do my Guatemala trip when we get to Washington. I'll write about that. But anyway, let's shift into today's episode. It has nothing to do with anything I'm talking about right now. That was just kind of a little life update and, kind of my goals. But today I am speaking with Lara Days. Now, Lara is really into intuitive eating. She's a nutrition coach, intuitive eating coach, and she really focuses on teaching people to listen to their bodies, but not just about their eating habits, but also about their mental health. So I love this connection between what we eat, how we eat, and our mental health, but also our lifestyle. We get into talking about our sedentary lifestyle, our disconnection from nature, our negative thoughts, these societal beliefs that are ingrained in us, the messages that we grow up with and get ingrained in us. So it's a really, really great conversation. So it's not strictly about intuitive eating, but I would say more about intuitive living, which is really something I've been trying to be more intentional about. So I'm really looking forward to you listening to this episode. I think it's going to be a really great one. And I think it's going to really get you to think about your life and your lifestyle and your thoughts and what you consume. Again, not only food, but media, messages, all things like that. This is a really, really great and important conversation. I'm really looking forward to you listening to it, and I think you're going to get a lot out of it. So help me welcome Lara.
Hi, Lara. How are you today?
I'm good. How are you, Des?
I'm good. So good to talk to you today. I'm really looking forward to this conversation. We're talking all about intuitive eating, which is a really great and fascinating topic. So, just to get us started, before we get into all that, I would love if you could take a little while to introduce yourself, who you are, share your story with us, how you got to where you are today.
Absolutely. I like to say that I usually give the Cliffs Notes version because I got here in a pretty roundabout way. Growing up, I was very, very involved in music and in sports. So I played like 4 different sports in high school. I was in show choir, I was in jazz choir, I was taking voice lessons, doing all state, playing violin and orchestra, all of these things. And I ended up going to college at a conservatory studying music, and in a weird turn of events, played softball my junior and senior year. And when I graduated from my undergrad and started grad school, I was no longer doing any sort of organized sports. And I realized that outside of like little random pieces of information that I had picked up as an athlete and a singer, I really didn't know anything about how to take care of my body. And that felt really frustrating. And I think is something that a lot of former athletes can identify with when we stop playing sports. It's like, I'm now having an identity crisis, and I also don't know how to work out on my own. And so I started just kind of experimenting with my own body, just different ways of eating, different ways of moving, and started documenting on social media probably around 2015, 2016. And after a year or so of sharing, people started asking me for help. And I was like, I can't help you. I don't even really know what I'm doing for me. And after saying I can't help you to people for a few months, I was like, I want to know more about this anyway. So I did my precision nutrition certification and started working with clients as, I'm using air quotes here, a nutrition coach. And I saw pretty quickly that people's challenges with food and movement and their body does not have anything to do with food and movement and their body. Sometimes, yes, there is a lack of knowledge and education, but really it's more about our own beliefs. Trauma often is a big part of that, and just kind of our own conditioning around bodies and food. And there's just a lot of confusion. And I started digging a little bit deeper with my clients at that point. So probably about a year into coaching, and stumbled upon the intuitive eating book after, again, people were asked, I should really thank all the people who have asked me random questions over the years on social media. People started asking me if I was an intuitive eating coach. And I was like, no, I don't even know what that is. And again, after being asked the same question a number of times, I was like, well, I guess I'll look into this. I read the book and all of it resonated. And turns out I was doing a lot of those things already. And so I went through the process of becoming a certified intuitive eating counselor and shifting so that basically all of my clients at this point are utilizing intuitive eating, the principles of intuitive eating in some way. And we're able to dig a little bit deeper into why we believe what we believe about ourselves, about bodies, about our abilities, and really start to sort through and heal those root causes that are creating the symptoms that show up as I don't know what to eat. I'm scared to eat. I don't want to get fat. Healthy bodies only look this way, and all of those things that give us anxiety and stress about food and movement in our bodies.
Wow. Okay. That is really, really interesting. So before we get into all of that, because I was taking down notes, I have a million
I love it.
questions for you. But can you share in your own words what exactly is intuitive eating?
So, intuitive eating is basically a set of 10 principles that help people improve their interoception or interoceptive awareness, which is their ability to feel and understand their body's cues. By improving our interoceptive awareness, we can then start to honor what it is our body is asking for and make internal choices for internal issues as opposed to looking at external sources like diets, meal plans, calorie counting, macro counting, whatever, to tell us how to treat our bodies. And it is hard to define because it does go beyond eating. One of the principles is to cope with our emotions without using food. And so it's also about building interoception around what am I feeling? What do I need? What do I need to give myself right now? So it is really the intersection. I was just watching basketball. The intersection of psychological and physiological work within our bodies around food and movement.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. So you mentioned that there's 10 principles. You mentioned one. Are you able to share some of the other kind of key principles that you see with the clients you're working with?
Absolutely. I can just list them off so that people kind of know what we're dealing with here. So, principle 1 is reject the diet mentality. Principle 2 is honor your hunger. 3 is make peace with food. 4 is to challenge the food police. Those are the internal food police, but I also bring in some of the external food police work with my clients, and we talk about boundaries. Principle 5 is to feel your fullness. 6 is to discover the satisfaction factor. 7, cope with your feelings without using food. 8 is respect your body. 9 is exercise, feel the difference. And 10 is to honor your health with gentle nutrition.
Okay, great. Thank you for sharing all of those.
Yeah.
And so this is really interesting to me because you said that it goes into more of the beliefs, trauma, conditioning. So, how do you feel that intuitive eating actually incorporates mental health, emotional health?
Yeah, so there I think are a lot of different ways in which it does include mental and emotional health. On kind of a more basic level, there is the fact that in order to function properly, and this includes our brain function, we have to have enough energy and nutrients. And so if we are dieting, we are literally not getting enough energy and nutrients. And this could look like things like for me, if I'm underfed, I have the emotional bandwidth of like a 7-year-old. You know, people talk about being hangry. That's an emotional impact of feeling hungry, right? And then on another level, we see things like I have this massive textbook next to me from my precision nutrition certification that has a big section on how different nutrient deficiencies can show up in the body. And two of the things that are recurring symptoms of nutrient deficiencies are depression and anxiety. And so if we're not feeding ourselves what we need, that can have mental and emotional impacts. From a whole other viewpoint, I would say the low self-worth and self-esteem that people experience when they have a really challenging relationship with food in their bodies because there's constant internal there's this constant internal narrative of like, I'm not doing a good enough job. I'm ugly. I don't look good enough. I shouldn't eat this. I shouldn't eat that. These people are judging me. This person's going to comment on my body. Oh my gosh, I've gained weight. What are people going to say? Like having those thoughts all the time is exhausting. And it just takes a huge toll on our relationship with ourselves and our ability to speak up for ourselves, to set boundaries, to have important conversations. And it's also a distraction that takes us away from other things that are important in our lives and important to our mental health, like getting a promotion at work or being present with our kids. These things show up, and it's so interesting. And I'm glad you asked this question because a lot of people don't think about that. They're like, oh, I mean, yeah, food stresses me out sometimes, but it's not that big of a deal. One of the things that I hear from my clients almost 100% of the time after they've worked with me is they tell me they literally didn't know how much time and brain space they were wasting thinking about food and their bodies. Like it is constant. And when you're used to it, you don't even necessarily notice that. But when you get that time and space and freedom back, your whole life changes and you're able to then maybe have the energy to go to therapy if you've been needing that. Like I've had clients who leave a program and they're like, this really stirred up a lot of childhood trauma that I think was repressed and I need to go see like a trauma specialist now. Great. They maybe never would have done that if we hadn't uncovered what was going on.
Oh, that makes so much sense. Yeah. And
Mhm.
I would just imagine that if somebody has this kind of internal things that they're struggling with, like you mentioned, the weight or their body image, things like that, that food would take up a good amount of mental space that people probably aren't even aware of because it's just that kind of we kind of get used to our thoughts that we don't really notice them if they're kind of our baseline.
I hear this. I don't have kids, but I've heard this from new parents when they first have a baby and the baby's screaming and they aren't sleeping. They obviously notice that initially, but then they get so used to running on like 3 hours of sleep and naps that when they start sleeping again, they're like, oh my gosh, I forgot what it was like to be rested, right? Like you just get so used to it, it becomes the status quo for you. And it's not until it changes that you're like, oh, right. Yeah, this could be way better.
Yeah, absolutely. So you mentioned some of them, but when it comes to intuitive eating, what are kind of some things that people get wrong about intuitive eating or kind of misconceptions about intuitive eating?
Yeah, I think the two big ones that I hear is that the first one is it's just a hunger and fullness diet. And as I went through the 10 principles, like that's only two of the 10 principles. So that's not wrong. Like, yes, we want you to learn how to honor your hunger and feel your fullness, but that's not like if you're not doing the other eight principles, then you're not eating intuitively, right? If you are emotionally eating, but you're stopping when you're full, first of all, that doesn't happen very often, but that's still not intuitive eating because you're not feeling your feelings and coping without food, right? If you are eating when you're hungry, stopping when you're full, but you're forcing yourself to work out in ways that you hate, and the goal of the workouts is to change your body, then you're not intuitively eating. So just kind of that neglect for the other eight principles is one that I see a lot. The other one is that intuitive eating is promoting an unhealthy lifestyle because it's telling people that they can eat whatever they want whenever they want. And again, like, yes, I want people to eat whatever they want whenever they want. But when we've improved our interoception and we are respecting our bodies, what we want when we want it becomes really healthy for our bodies. People talk about cravings a lot. They're like, so you just give into your cravings? And I'm like, yes, and like we can still look at the root cause of the cravings. Are we craving something because we are looking for a coping mechanism and we know that we're going to get that dopamine hit from the Lay's chips that we love, right? Are we missing nutrients in our diet? A big one that I hear with people who, or big one that I see with people who have sugar cravings is that they're just not eating enough carbs during the day. And so if we start to listen to our bodies and eat more carbs during the day, then all of a sudden those sugar cravings go away. But the same way that we can crave sugar and sweets and highly palatable foods, we can also crave a salad or vegetables And I think we've all experienced that maybe if we've run out of groceries and so we get takeout for like 3 days in a row for every meal. It's like, oh my God, I just want a vegetable in and around my mouth. Like, please give me a vegetable. And so that is still a part of eating whatever we want, whenever we want. Again, if we're incorporating the rest of those principles, then whatever we want, whenever we want becomes eating in a way that feels good in our bodies, in our lives, with our people, honoring our culture and traditions and things like that.
Okay, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And this is kind of piggybacking off of that. But what are some of the struggles that may come up for someone that wants to incorporate intuitive eating, that wants to practice this?
Mm. I would say probably the most common one that I hear is from people who say, I can't be an intuitive eater because I can't feel my body's cues. And that just shows us that, and this isn't me like blaming or shaming anyone, like we just don't know what intuitive eating is. Because if we know what it is and what it is intended to do, then we know that it gives us the tools to improve our ability to feel our hunger and fullness cues and all of our body's cues. And I kind of alluded to this earlier, but interoception is not just I feel when I'm hungry, I feel when I'm full, I feel when I have to pee, right? It's also like I know when I'm angry, I know how that feels in my body. I know how grief feels in my body. I know how joy feels in my body. I can feel all of these things and know, okay, this is what I'm feeling. And so therefore, this is what I need in this moment. And that's a really powerful tool. And the principles, each principle either gives us information and tools to improve our interoception, or they help us remove barriers from interoception.
Okay, yeah, and that's kind of something that we talk about on the podcast a lot is that I feel like we're very disconnected from our bodies. And I think it
Mhm.
starts from a very young age in school, right? You have to raise your hand and get permission to go to the bathroom. You're not allowed to eat certain snacks and, you're quieted and shushed a lot. And when you're trying to express yourself. So, this is something that's very much taught and ingrained in us from a really young age. So, I find that when people are kind of doing something like this, like practicing intuitive eating, there's such a big disconnect to their
Yeah.
bodies that it's almost like this process of reconnection.
Absolutely. And I tell people, my job isn't to change anything. My job is to help you reconnect with your body and come back home to yourself because we were all born intuitive eaters, to your point. And then we go off to school and we eat at mealtime and we have snacks at snack time. And like you might have been hungry 2 hours before that, but it's not time to eat yet. So we're not set up for success. And it's not our fault that we're disconnected from our bodies at all. But as the saying goes, it might not be our fault, but it is our responsibility to change it if that's what we want.
Yes, definitely. And another point to that too is that I feel like a big connection to our bodies has to do with nature and walking and, being active and just the way our society is set up now. We're very much a sedentary lifestyle, and a lot of us work in buildings with no windows, and our getting outside is going from our building to the car, right? Or the car to in our house. So
Yep.
we're just very disconnected from nature too, which impacts our connection with ourselves and our bodies.
Hmm. And we're all trying to do a million things at once. If I'm on a video call and also responding to emails and then checking my phone, people tell me, oh, I forgot to eat. I'm like, you didn't really forget. You were just distracted by trying to do 18 other things. I bet if you had taken 5 seconds and just closed your eyes and did a body scan, you'd be like, oh, I'm hungry. Right. Or, oh, I have to go to the bathroom. Like, we're very disconnected and we're very distracted.
Yes, absolutely. And I have a private practice, but I work full time in a middle school and high school. So I work with a lot of teachers, obviously. And it's amazing that, a lot of teachers don't get a lunch break because they get called to sub or they have to plan and work through their lunches. So, in a lot of the jobs that I've been in, people don't even really get a lunch break or they're encouraged to work through it because they have so much work on their plates that they have to get done that they feel like they don't even have time to take a proper lunch break.
It's true. And I was a teacher actually for several years. And one of the things that I hear from my clients a lot, and this comes back to improving our self worth, self advocacy, boundary setting skills. I will eat anytime, anywhere. I mean, I'm not going to eat during like the symphony. Like, I'm not going to crinkle my wrappers in places where it's like truly inappropriate. But if I'm in a meeting and I'm not presenting, I'm going to eat something. If I'm facilitating a call, I'm probably not going to be eating. If you're coming to listen to me talk at you, like totally bring food and eat. But people are so afraid to speak up for themselves, and they're so afraid to make someone mad or be disruptive or distracting. And I'm like, you got to take care of yourself first. If you're hungry, eat something. If someone has something to say about it and they're not your direct supervisor, that's their shit to deal with. That has nothing to do with you. They're probably feeling triggered because they don't have the tools yet to speak up for themselves and they wish that they could.
Have you seen that meme that it's like things that are embarrassing for no reason? Have you seen that?
No, but that sounds funny.
It's very funny. And one of them that always comes up is like my bag of chips crinkling in a quiet room.
That's funny. Yeah. Like, why
Yeah.
is that embarrassing?
Right, exactly.
So
But
funny.
I think we all kind of have that feeling. It's almost like, when you're talking about this, that we're in meetings and things like that, it's almost like eating is inappropriate, right? That it's not okay.
To me, like if someone's asking you to work through your lunch break and then reprimanding you for eating, that's like something I would probably tell HR, honestly, because that's illegal in most states to not give you a lunch break or to make you work through your lunch. So if they're not going to let you eat, time to speak up for yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think a lot of people do experience a lot of these toxic work cultures where maybe they're not like outwardly being told like you can't eat during your lunch break, but these little things that it's discouraged, or like if you're a teacher and you get called to sub during your lunch break, just things like that it's hard, and it goes into what you said, a lot of that kind of boundary work and assertiveness.
Totally. I want to point this out because this has been something I've experienced a few times with clients is when we actually are assuming things that like we haven't been told. And what I mean by that is I'll have clients that are like, well, I can't eat during XYZ. And I'll go, has someone told you that you can't eat? And they're like, well, no. I'm like, okay, well then why are we assuming? And we're all guilty of this. Like I've done this before for sure, but it's like, wait, did I just make up this rule myself? Or am I assuming that because I'm the peacemaker, the people pleaser, that like this is just something that I don't feel comfortable doing? And so I'm telling myself that it's not allowed. So just offering that in case anyone listening is like, oh, yeah, maybe that's not a rule.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. And like you said, I think we're all guilty of that in in some capacity. So say somebody comes to you and they want to practice intuitive eating. How can somebody get started with this? What does this kind of process look like? What are kind of little steps to get someone's feet wet?
I always like to give the caveat that if you have the means to hire someone, I always think that's best, whether it's a therapist, I have a client right now who's been having this like shoulder issue and he really doesn't want to go to a PT. And I'm like, dude, your shoulder's been hurting forever. Like, go to a physical therapist, like hire someone. Like you can only do so much on your own. So caveat, like if you have the means to work with someone, I think that is how we get farther faster. And I understand that's not accessible for everyone. So there is an intuitive eating book and also a workbook. And the workbook is a really great tool because it will have questions pertaining to each of the principles. And it really forces you to be honest with yourself and get clear on like where a lot of these beliefs originated, who is benefiting from you believing these things. I keep these very like right on hand. There are things like prep work. So if you are practicing slow, mindful eating, there's like a little worksheet for you where you choose a time you're not likely to be too hungry, choose a specific food, decide where you will eat the food. What do you need in order to feel safe eating this? Oh, this is a forbidden food exercise. So like if someone's been afraid to eat a certain food, it's like some prep work to, all right, I'm going to eat this food, and then log how you're feeling, check in during the process. So something like that, I think would be a really, really great starting place where someone can, again, if you have the internal drive to really dive in on your own, that can be a super powerful tool.
Okay, great. And I'll get those links from you and I'll include them in the show notes for everybody listening if you guys
Yeah,
want to check that out.
I can definitely send those. Great, great, great tool.
Oh, great. Yeah, thank you for sharing that. And
Yeah.
so you mentioned that there's a lot of root causes, right? For this, the struggles with body image, food, a lot of the things. How can someone begin to unlearn this kind of past conditioning, these messages from society?
That I think is probably the hardest part of all of this work because it involves admitting that you have been wrong a lot, which I'm going to say, and you can ask anyone who knows me, my husband will tell you, I do not like to be wrong. So I get it. It sucks. But you have to admit that probably not all, but a lot of the beliefs that you hold just are not true. And being okay with kind of a beginner's mindset and just this like fresh slate mentality and adopting almost like a sponge like quality. Like, okay, I'm wringing out the old beliefs, I'm cleaning the slate, and what is actually true. I think doing for folks who are spending a lot of time on social media, do a social media, the only cleanse I will ever promote, a social media cleanse. Like, any diet culture-y things, which is basically anything promoting weight loss or the idea that like thinner is better, side by side photo, like transformation photos. I will say those can be done in a way that don't cause a lot of harm. But if there's like no trigger warning and the caption is all about their weight loss journey, and a lot of I call it toxic gym bro culture. I don't know if that's a coined term or not, but like this is, again, I sound like I'm like really calling people out and shaming people here. This was my mindset for many, many years, was like earned, not given. I just have more willpower than everyone else. Discipline, like that mentality. It basically ignores our intuition. So all of that's got to go. People can look up, like just search the hashtag intuitive eating or intuitive eating counselor, hashtag health at every size or HAES, because we can't always control who we are around physically, but we can control who we are seeing, who we are following on social media and in some of those online spaces. So, like getting rid of all the toxic messaging that you've been following and connecting with people who are doing this work and who know the research. I have 180 plus research studies on all of this. And I don't like to say it's all true because nutrition research is relatively new and there are always new studies being done and information is always evolving. But there's a lot of evidence that intuitive eating is actually the healthiest way for most people to be eating, barring any big like medical needs. So, yeah, really just finding those people and remembering that you did not learn all of these diet culture beliefs by hearing something one time. You heard it daily, multiple times a day for decades, probably. So the unlearning process can take a while and it is very up and down. I'll have clients that do a program, they're feeling really good, they go off on their own, they implement, and then like something happens, there's a big trigger, and they're like, okay, I made a lot of progress, but I'm back for round two. Like, I need some different support coming from a different place now. So it can take some time, but I think environment is really big. Reading books is great. If you want me to send you some other links to books I recommend to my clients, one of them is called The Body is Not an Apology by Sonia Renee Taylor. One of them is called More Than a Body by Lindsay and Lexi Kite. And just thinking about replacing your old beliefs with the new beliefs and how much repetition that's going to take.
Yeah, that would be great. I'll include all of those in the show notes. And these are such great points. I'm glad that you're bringing these up. And I love how you said we can't always control who is around us physically, but we can control that social media space. So that's a really great point for people to think about because, yeah, I think we all know that social media can be very toxic.
Yeah. And what's really interesting, and again, like ask me how I know, because I did this. we think that tough love is like the best way. Not everyone, but a lot of us think like, oh, I just need to like be whipped into shape. I need to have this like picture of a Victoria's Secret model as my inspo, like hashtag inspo or body goals or whatever. And research shows that that actually is the opposite. Like self compassion is the most powerful tool on this journey. And so this tough love and like drill sergeant mentality doesn't actually work for most people. So I just wanted to add that like self-compassion is going to be a really powerful tool also.
Yeah, and I love this analogy of the donkey analogy, right? That if you have kind of those sacks on the donkey and you need him to get up a hill, what is going to be more motivating for the donkey, with you beating him with sticks and yelling at him and saying he's lazy and dumb, or feeding him treats and carrots? Like, what's going to be
Uh-huh.
more motivating?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, well, Laura, this has been so great. I really appreciate you being here today. Do you have any sort of final words of wisdom or advice for our listeners that are maybe struggling with their relationships with their bodies, who maybe want to practice intuitive eating, that they feel that it may be beneficial for them?
Yeah, you're not alone. I hear from people all the time that they feel like they're the only person going through this. And I can assure you, with the dozens, if not hundreds of clients that I've worked with at this point, like it's not true. A relatively recent survey showed us that I think it was 95% of women hate their bodies. That's horrible. Like it breaks my heart. And you are certainly not alone in your struggles with food and movement and your body. I just like to tell people you're not alone. There's no shame in what you're going through. It is very, very, very common. And you have the power to change it. A lot of times it's just about knowing the right tools. And so I hope that this conversation and some of the resources included will be some tools to help people jumpstart their journey.
Absolutely. I am sure that this conversation, all the tools that you've provided, and everything I'm going to put in the show notes is going to be really helpful. So I would also love if you could share where everyone can find you.
Yeah. Best place to reach me is on the gram. It's at Lara.days. So Lara.days, just my first name dot my last name. And if that is hard to remember, hashtag Lara Elizabeth coaching will also take you to a bunch of my posts. And I love chatting with people. So DM me. We can hang out online.
Great. Perfect. I will put all of those in the show notes as well. Lara, thank you so much for being here today. What a great conversation, and an important one.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me and just for letting me introduce some folks to intuitive eating.
I really hope that you liked this episode and gained a lot of value from it. If you did like this episode, please share it on social media. You can tag me at The Wellness Project with Des on Instagram and at According to Des on Facebook. If you do enjoy my podcast and gain value from it, I would greatly appreciate your support. You can show your love and support by buying me a coffee. This will help my podcast to grow, and in turn will help me to keep bringing on amazing guests. You can go to buymeacoffee.com/The Wellness Project with Des to show your support. All books written by or recommended by my amazing podcast guests are listed on my Amazon storefront. Go to the link in the show notes to check out those books. I would love to extend an invite to you to become a part of my community. You can do this through Facebook, where we will be discussing this episode. I would love for you to share your insights, any aha moments, any thoughts or ideas you would like to contribute. You can contribute in the discussion taking place in my Facebook group, and it's a great place to connect with me because I am in there every day with mental health and wellness content, discussions, reflections, journal prompts. It's a fun and supportive place to be. You can find the group at facebook.com/groups/According to Des, and that link will also be in the show notes. You can also check out more of what I'm doing on my website, accordingtodes.com. You'll find a lot of wellness blogs, written interviews, detailed podcast show notes, and my shop, where you will be able to find workshops, my self-care course, digital downloads, ebooks. There's a lot going on my website, so make sure you check that out at accordingtodes.com. And while you're there, join my email list to stay in the know about what I have going on and available for you. When you sign up, you will get your free ebook, The 5 Stress Reduction Techniques to help you feel more relaxed. Thank you so much for being here. I will talk to you next week. So until then, I hope you have a calm and peaceful week.